go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Gojin the Makai Phantom, and joining me is once again my good friend Zimzilla99. And what we're talking about today is, of course, another gaming-related topic, and it is around the game that's some reason controversial because people are fucking retarded, Stellar Blade.
Titties.
Yeah, and ass and titties.
If you have to add the ass onto the titties, all it means is that you're a lower form of life. Titties for life. I will hear none of this ass heresy, okay?
Yeah, you love ass hairs.
Hey, you're the only. I know exactly what I said, so I mean, if you want to get a little gay with this, you can go be gay somewhere else, good sir. I'll take over the stream for you.
Not until 4. Okay. Tokupunk said, Western games have fallen so hard, making every woman and real woman like Troons and that mid-Korean women are peak now. That's the thing when it comes to a lot of Western games. Like, here's the thing. I have no issue with a lead character not being attractive. Like, I like a lot of media from the West, and I'm picky with women who aren't Asian.
It means he's got yellow fever, guys.
Oh, fuck off. But I have no issue with that. But the issue with a lot of Western games, they're making real women look uglier than they really are, which I don't know. Like, I'm not going to act like I'm concerned about it, but thinking of it from these people's shoes, if anything, like, if my likeness was being used for a game character and they made me fucking ugly, I would feel disrespected.
Well, I think, like, generally, at least from my thoughts, is that I know, like, the big controversy originally was that Eve looks like a child, so then there was the whole pedo discourse, which was stupid. And then there was that one guy who, like, went around New York City talking to, like, 4s and 3s, and that they were just reaffirming what he was saying. And then I literally legit remember, I'll have to send Joey this if I can find it again. One of the people that was like part of that interview was like, yo, they put white in this Asian girl. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You spiteful retard.
They didn't. Like, I literally have photos comparing Shin Jae-eun, the model for Eve, and the character, and they look very similar. Now, I will get to this more later, but I've seen some people say that, oh, they only scanned the body. That is true, but that doesn't mean the face still wasn't based on Shin Jae-eun. When you look at them side by side, and I'm not talking about, let me grab the image that a lot of them tend to use to say Eve looks nothing like her model, because it's not fucking true. Give me a second. Okay. I'll grab it right now. Like, I'm not talking about... Give me a second. Like, I'll get to the images that look like her later, but one that they typically use is this image right here, which I'll admit, this looks pretty different from Shin Jae-eun. But you know what? This also looks different from Eve's character in the game. Like, just because the face wasn't, like, scanned doesn't mean it wasn't based off her. And I'll get to that again later as we get to another topic of the video.
Like, I also found that 6-minute interview. I can share, like, my entire screen. So we could just go through that interview. Just so, like, we could share it to everyone, so.
Yeah. But you know when people say that, oh, that's not real woman? Like, when people say stuff like, give me a second. When people say stuff like, oh, that's not realistic woman, you know what it has me thinking? They're just saying Asian women are better.
Yeah. So we'll do that 2 times speed.
Like, I'm not saying that these people are.
I mean.
Oh god, it's Moby Dick.
But let's go.
It's just men that's never touched a woman in their life, not knowing what they look like, and so they're like, "This is what women in my video games always look like."
That's not a woman.
She looks 14. And with the side ponytail too, girl. She needs a bow.
She looks like she's 16. Oh, hell no. It looked nothing like her. Like,
It's like,
Again, that's the wrong.
you
image.
literally you have green hair. Like that's something like a 3 or 4-year-old would want to do. I'm not sure why she's talking about her looking like a child, but
Bow.
she looks like she's 16. Oh, hell
Yeah,
no.
but they just don't like attractive women.
It's perfectly fine to have an animation style, especially in a game, but when you're appropriating someone else's image and then changing it, it becomes an issue.
So I'm gonna show
wait, Leslie can go back.
It's perfectly fine to have an animation style, especially in a game, but when you're appropriating someone else.
So excuse the titles there. So he's literally saying appropriate, which is to take for one's use typically without the owner's provision.
Which they got the girl's provision.
She was literally employed for this, so that's
She even has
also
in her
just not accurate.
She even has in her Instagram bio Eve from Stellar Blade.
Yeah, so like, it literally cannot be appropriate. Like this person right here, I'm not sure like what they are, who they are, what they identify as, but they look like a 13 or 12-year-old boy.
They do.
His image and then
The guy that's saying appropriating someone else's image, I'll tell you that looks more like a woman than most of the people in this interview.
Yeah.
and then changing it, it becomes an issue.
So I'm gonna show you an image, and you tell me what you think when you look at this image, okay?
Okay. Smash.
Smash.
Yeah.
She's so pretty, man.
She's very pretty, yeah.
Good day. Yeah, she definitely is beautiful. How old do you think she is?
23?
So, yeah, like 23,
Early 20s,
yeah.
definitely, yeah.
She's 32.
Oh, wow. She looks good for
She
32.
has pink hair routine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is the woman right here. When you first look at her, what do you think?
She's a woman, she looks nice.
After this interview, I'm gonna show a picture of Eve that actually looks like Shin Jae-eun.
Was it like 22, 23?
I want to say 23, but I feel like she's 17.
That's not what you do that to us, right?
No, she's 32.
Oh,
I'm gonna show you now a character that is based off of her.
That's so funny.
These people are fucking
like her
retarded.
I think it looks like her. I don't think it's based off of her. I think they kind of missed the mark. She looks 14. And with the side ponytail too, girl. She needs a bow. She needs a little bow, and she's on her way in the middle school. I just don't get her at all. Like that nose.
Nose is very different.
Yeah, that nose is definitely not Asian. She's
Yeah.
Asian. They took a white woman and supplemented some white woman's DNA. and
But-
That's Shin Jae-eun's nose. Like I said in the images I'm gonna compare to it soon, it'll show that.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
Alright.
That's all I want to show is I just want to make sure that we actually have that there because that's
Okay.
insane. No. Tokubunk says that sounds racist. No cap. Yeah, that
It
sounds
is
super racist.
Now, let me say, isn't it obvious that that face is based off hers? It's not scanned, but like I literally have my notes. Let me go into my notes there. It is explaining the similarities of the two. Give me a second. Give me a second. Like he's makes perfect sense in the narrative. Because I wrote a lot of shit down for this. Okay, now there's this misinterpretation. The director's statement about the head for Eve being made in-house because he did confirm the body of Eve was scanned, but people think that meant the head was entirely made up. It wasn't. First of all, nothing is entirely made up. Even anime girls have some basis on real women, which is why so many people find them attractive. Hell, even the sprites in the old Doom game was modeled after real-life graphic violence. But this case in particular is definitely silly, because that statement, because to make that statement, even though the head isn't scanned, it's still designed after her likeness. This comparison of images right here. You see, like, the arts, like, obviously there is an art style that strives to be mainly realistic, but not indistinguishable, which is why in this case they're attempting to kind of avoid certain elements of bone structure because of that. Which, considering the different looks of many characters, I have reason to believe this was to hammer in she's an android. I'm not sure. I haven't played the game in its entirety yet, but the one thing I want to point out in terms of this, give me a second because I'm looking at this image, I'd probably assume what they were doing when they were designing her, Shin Jae-eun was definitely the model for this. Now when it comes to this image, the nose in particular, aren't the nose the same?
I'd say like generally, yeah.
Yeah, and then, for example, you have the same trimmed eyebrows, the same head shape. everything, even the same slightly big ears. That's
It's
the
like one of
same.
those things where it's like the biggest thing that's like separating the two is
Bone
her
structure.
hair.
Yeah.
I was
It's
gonna say the hair is like the biggest thing that's gonna change. Plus, not to mention the lighting's different too. Like overall, like the people making a big deal about her looking the way she does are coming up with all sorts of cope reasons as to why they don't like it. Like I remember when Celebrate was first announced that people were saying she looks like the designs like something from like a bygone era or something that they don't do anymore, when in actuality it just speaks to a level of uniformity as well as just general sort of closed-mindedness most modern and like game analysts or journalists and developers have nowadays about character design.
it's insecurity. Like Ackman brought up
Yeah.
when Xbox was saying stuff like, oh, that let's not make our women too attractive. How about Gears of War? The men in
Mhm.
Gears of War are very, very different. Are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Out of the league of most of us males.
Well, not to mention the fact that at least like when it comes to Gears of War 2, they had a lot of like really well designed female characters that were attractive, but still like fit aesthetically with like the style that they were going for. But the problem with the like everything shown here is that Eve as a character isn't like conforming to an established series aesthetic and just like kind of going off the rails. It's a new IP. They can do whatever it is they want with their new IP, and like people complaining about it is just weird.
It is. Okay, now I found the proper notes I was looking for, because I was tripping over myself earlier because I was struggling to find them. But like I was about to say, there is a bit of, like, for example, a anime-ish aesthetic there. The head shape, but the head shape is primarily the same. Has the same pointy jawline. Her little nose, which that person was complaining about, the little small nose, right there. Remember them, white people nose.
Yeah, so Asian, they put white people in. It's like so. It's like I love when people talk about like race or racism, and then you have people saying stupid shit like that. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, like in the ears, like for example, ears are same pointy and somewhat big.
But I think like even then, like we don't even need to like go into like these hyper specific details because I think it's pretty obvious
It is.
that they are the same character. There is nothing wrong with it, and everyone who's like making a big deal about this are literally just coping.
Oh, I know. It's just that some people would be like, "Oh, the director confirmed they didn't model the head." No, he confirmed they didn't scan it. It's still modeled off of her.
Mm.
Like,
But
in terms of body, some people try to say it's not realistic, but it's like, let me grab that image, like, just because people try to say it's exaggerated.
I think like another problem too is that like people talk about like exaggerated body proportions. There's been like tons of characters with exaggerated body proportions. That's not the problem. It's never been a problem, and the only reason why people are making a problem out of it is because it's attractive to certain people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, this is to a fucking T right here.
Tokapunk Yacht. Yeah.
Yep. Like, isn't this to a T?
What? Sorry, I was distracted.
Of course you were. But isn't this to a T?
Yeah, I mean, like literally, like I would say, like we probably just need to have like more lighting on it. But yeah, it's very like the argument that she was not like they didn't try to scan the model it's insane. It's literally insane. It's cope.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the body, 100% spot on because they scanned it. The head, 99% spot on, other than some slight cleanups that gives it more of a cosplayer with what's the word I'm looking for? Filter vibe. Do you know how women online will use filters to make themselves look more anime-ish? A cosplayer
Yeah, one way
would.
or another. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get from the head. And that's probably why they didn't scan the head, because they wanted to base it off her, but they also wanted to go with somewhat of a minor art style, being primarily realistic with anime-ish aesthetics, a lot like Nier or Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But the body doesn't even have that. The body is literally 100% hers because... But these people that go stuff like, oh, it looks like a child, it's racism towards Asian people. And I'm going to say it right now. And this is why I kind of support the Stop Asian Hate thing, because both sides hate Asian people. The right does and the left does. Like, for example, any Asian thing that comes out, Godzilla -1, you had people that were bitching about it, like Grace Rudolph, that cunt.
Who?
Grace Rudolph, that's what we're calling Big Nose Bitch here. That she was bitching about Godzilla -1, and you had all these other people complaining about Godzilla -1. Why? Because it was a Japanese
Grace,
film. Grace Randolph, I mean.
Oh, Grace. Oh.
Yeah, but that's because Japanese
her.
movie, it's bad because it's Japanese. This game drops, a lot of people bash on it. So yeah.
I completely forgot that she had some like weird thing going on with -1.
She's a dumb cunt. But that's the thing. Like, when you bring stuff like... I wanted to bring this up because I feel like it utterly destroys their narrative of the non-realistic route.
But again, she was never designed to be realistic. It's supposed to be very anime inspired, so...
Well, like I said, the art style of it is a lot like Nier. It's primarily realistic with anime-ish aesthetics. If that makes sense. It's like basically like, which this also could be to kind of hammer in the fact that she's an android, because the thing is, when it comes to this game, one of the things I've seen people point out is some characters look like they belong in a different game. You have that one dude who's photorealistic. You have one character who looks more anime than Eve, and then you have Eve that's kind of in between them, of being realistic with some anime-ish inspirations in the face. Which, like, some people interpret that as the game having an inconsistent art style. That's not an invalid interpretation, but my interpretation, at least from what I gathered as an outsider, that might change when I actually play the game, that what was going on there was they wanted to hammer in the fact that these are made by people and they're made different. Now, if someone's gonna be like in the comments, Gojin, I played the game, that's not what they're doing, you're gonna have to explain to me in deeper detail why I'm wrong in that regard, because any idiot can play Stellar Blade. So you're gonna have to you have more of a chance of forming a better perspective than I do on certain things, but just because you played it doesn't mean your perspective is already well fleshed out. If you're saying stupid shit, you're saying stupid shit. It's like when a filmmaker...
Give me 1 sec, keep talking. I just need to make a call back because my bank just gave me a call, so I'm just gonna stay in the chat.
It's like when a filmmaker says stuff like, my opinion matters more because I make movies. It's like, yeah, if you make movies, you do have a good chance of giving a better formed analysis than Joe Schmo. But if you're saying stupid shit, your your status means nothing. So in this sense, like, if I'm wrong in that regard, feel free to explain to me, but just saying you're wrong and saying, oh, I played it, that's not gonna make me admit I'm wrong. You're gonna have to explain to me in that sense. But that's kind of a thing I wanted to get a hammer in here, because again, like I said, the game goes for a primarily realistic art style with some fantasy aesthetics in, as Square Enix kind of puts it when they describe Final Fantasy. Tokupunk Productions said, Matt Walsh, Jim Sterling type beat. Yes, I don't like either of them. They're both fucking stupid. But, yeah, I wanted to hammer in the fact that this is indeed the same person. Okay, give me a second. Have to find.
Bank stuff. I swear to God.
What
No,
happened?
no. Like I was having like issues with my card for like a few days, and then the one of the tellers calls me back, and the only reason why they wanted the call was that I was pre-approved for a credit card, and I was like, "No, I don't want a credit card," and that was it. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I don't want to hear any calls from my bank because of like weird shenanigans." But
Fair enough.
yeah, it's like nothing happened. So I'm like, okay, bye,
Yeah.
I guess.
But I have a question. Wouldn't you agree with me that this face comparing to Shin Jae-un, this picture right here, is the worst comparison you can make on why Eve doesn't look like her
Yeah, well, I
model?
mean, like, also not to mention the fact that like she's also got like eyeliner and stuff around her face,
Yeah.
and like for anyone, if you're around any girl, which may be hard for like the vast majority of you, but when you do, hopefully one day, if a girl's gonna put on makeup, give her some time. She'll come out looking really different depending on what she does with her makeup. So unless like you're gonna like give the model the same hairstyle, let her doll up the same way with the makeup, you're never gonna get like a one-to-one comparison. But overall, if we're looking at the general shapes and stuff, yeah, she looks pretty much the same. But
Exactly.
like
Like
if you say she looks pretty much the same, then they'd be like, well, you're not saying she looks exactly the same. It's like, well, no, because you're not getting a one-to-one exact comparison, because even Eve in the game looks like she also has eyeliner on and stuff, not to mention the lighting, all of that versus this picture here of the model.
yeah. But when you look at the
It's
eyebrows, like
it's
the
ridiculous.
eyebrows, for example, obviously Shin Jae-un's.
Yeah, not to mention like also her expression in the game is a little different than her expression here in the picture. It like for anyone, if you're getting into an argument with any of these people, like being like specific and just being like, well, based on the fact that like they're not exactly the same, like on every front, based on the circumstances of pictures taken, there's no way to say she looks exactly the same. But based on what you can tell in general details, yeah, she looks the same. And if someone says otherwise, then they probably are just hating it because it's an attractive person and they hate the people who like that sort of thing. Simple as.
They hate attractive women and they hate Asian people.
They hate attractive women, hate Asian people, and hate people who like attractive women.
Yeah, exactly. And here's how I'm gonna interpret when people say, "Oh, this isn't realistic." Since we clearly have proved that wrong, these people are indirectly saying Asian people are better.
When
That's what
when
they're.
you feel so insecure by pixels on a screen.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. Anyway, I think we said enough on that topic. What should we move on next in terms of this?
We can just talk about like general weird Sony censorship because we are talking about all the Sony pony stuff. So
Oh, but one more argument I want to deconstruct regarding Stellar Blade. Well, two more. Because another thing I don't like though is, again, while there is some anime aesthetics in the game, there is one side that the opposing side of these people do kind of run with that, throwing the SJWs a bone, and that's people like Yellow Flash, because he starts saying stuff like, oh, anime butt, and he was saying that for months, when the art style of the game, a lot like Nier, as established, is primarily realistic in the case of Eve. But it's not photorealistic. Obviously, there's some style, but as a whole, realism was the main choice of design. That's why they were able to body scan. But the thing is, when it comes to these people, when they're saying stuff like, oh, it looks anime, just talking about anime when it's only elements of it, it just makes you think that these people think all Asian people are. They associate Asian people in CGI with anime. I blame the fact that.
I don't think that's necessarily an unfair comparison to make, because like you don't think anime when you think America, and you don't think anime when you think like Chinese or any other country's animation style. When people think anime, they think Japan. I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing to think, but like
But it throws the SJWs a bone of, oh, but she's not realistic.
I guess,
And
but like
I personally blame the fact these anti-SJWs will often talk about how they supposedly banned an American entertainment for Japanese, yet they only watch anime and the rare Godzilla -1 that takes the world by storm. Because I bet on you, 95% of these people didn't even sit down to watch Shin Kamen Rider last year. They were saying, oh, Japan had 2 Ws with -1 in The Boy and the Heron, when yes, that was meant to be a compliment. But first of all, if it was only 2 they had, that would be a small for a whole year of movies. But really, they're just snitching themselves out for bullshitting.
Well, I would say, like, even looking at Shin Kamen Rider, I'm trying to remember, like, I didn't get to see Shin Kamen Rider in theaters because I didn't know if there was any theaters close by that had Shin Kamen Rider. Like, I will say this, I could see Shin Ultraman near my house. Like, it was within walking distance of me versus Shin Kamen Rider, where I think the only ones that were showing were in, like, the city close to me, like the big city close to me. And then Shin Godzilla was showing in more places than Shin Kamen Rider, but less places, weirdly enough, than Shin Ultraman. And then -1 was showing like almost everywhere for me. But that also took like about a week past the initial first release.
Oh yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is a lot of these people who say they left Hollywood and American entertainment for Japanese, a lot of them just mainly watch anime and then say stupid shit about other Japanese entertainment and will only watch
Well, what about Japanese games too?
Yeah, in Japanese games, but it's like, basically, I just want people to expand their horizon.
I guess, but like also there's still a lot of room that needs to be done in terms of like just general Japanese entertainment coming out because like it's funny because I think Power Rangers like after Cosmic Fury isn't doing any more like adaptations to Sentai material. Maybe we're just gonna start seeing Sentai dubs appearing in the West instead of Power Ranger stuff, which means that you'll probably get more Sentai material coming over to the West versus what we were getting. In terms of like an animation kind of not animation, sorry, a adaptation sort of pipeline. Like stuff like getting stuff from other countries to another is always going to be hard, but I think that now with where we're at nationally, it's a lot easier to do, which is good. So that's what I'd say.
Like, I'd say that live action foreign material has been getting more mainstream attention in foreign years. Like, anime, I will acknowledge, even though I complain about a lot of anime fans, I do like anime, by the way. The reason why it's has far more of a community here is because it was building that for years. It's still niche, but it's closer to mainstream. Well, it was just a few years ago when tokusatsu, J-dramas, and even K-dramas.
I would say like even K-dramas are more common than like J-dramas.
Yeah, but still, Japanese stuff in live action is gradually growing a community here, which is good, but I would love to see it grow faster.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I guess like that's fair. But then the question just becomes sort of, I think like I'm fine with it growing the way it is growing. It just may not be something that like it gets to somewhere where I want it to in my lifetime. But like if it grows past me and like it becomes what I would have wanted long past me, I still am fine with that because ultimately what I want still comes about.
That is true. But
because like it's not going to stop me from like getting like looking for the stuff I want to look at.
Yeah. But when it comes as I was about to say, when it comes to this whole thing of Free Stellar Blade, I'll admit originally I was mixed on it because we weren't really sure what the intentions were behind the slight extra clothing, since on one hand, Sony does have a rep for censoring Asian games, and these gay-ass ponies just eat that shit up because they're corporate bootlickers, just like the Xbots. On the other, these anti-SJW weirdos will literally cry woke over anything, where now I'm honestly skeptical when something has that rep. And of course, it's not a massive change, especially since the game had more revealing outfits even then. So it really didn't make sense to me. However, but Griffin also gave an argument that also had it where I wasn't sure, because Griffin Gaming, he gave an argument that sounded reasonable about how the game awards you with sexy outfits as you progress. So maybe they felt these would spoil that. But I still signed the petition by Grums, just in case it was censorship. And I am glad I did, because after this, I'm comfortable with saying it was. It was weird, since again, the game had way skimpier outfits even after that censorship, but it was censorship at the end of the day. And since this was fixed, I am given hope for future localizations of Asian video games, as it shows not just Shift Up, but Sony. Sony, the company known for censoring Asian games, is actually willing to properly release them as it's made.
It's just like one of those weird things too, where like if there was already more revealing or skimpier designs when the censorship took place, then like there literally was no reason to censor things in the first place, and any reason given is complete cope, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. That's why I made notes. That's why I was confused about it, because it's like there's skimpier outfits in the game, yet these are what they chose to slightly censor.
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just glad it's fixed. Like,
Yeah.
Because a common criticism I have seen people bring up, well, people in quotes, is the suits a quote unquote hurt the story, but none of these pseudo fake critics actually elaborate on why. Because it's a skimpy outfit. Throughout the game, Eve finds clothing she thinks is nice and puts it on. It makes perfect sense in the narrative. And her generic tight outfit isn't any more out there than the fucking Rebellion in Star Wars or Marvel and DC heroes wearing damn tights. And if you just want to complain about girls putting on sexy clothing, it's been done in real life, first of all. Second, she's an android who's supposed to be naive to the world around her, so she isn't going to have the same reaction to putting those clothes on as human women. Now, if you do want to complain about outfits making no sense in the story, let's talk about an example these people were conveniently quiet about. Being able to dress as Spidey in his boxers. It has no justification in the story for why he dressed like that, and it reveals his body type, making it obvious what his identity is for those who know Peter. Granted, this is a double-edged sword. I'm not sure is actually worth criticizing since it's more content and was just added for fun. But
I think like it's also a reference to like a certain time he had to do that in the comics, if I recall correctly.
That's possible, but the point is, it's not, if you want to talk about outfits not making sense in the narrative, it makes no sense. Why were you quiet on that and are bitching about actual contextual reasoning in Stellar Blade?
Mm-hmm. I think like the reason, like what they'll probably say something to the effect of, Spidey in his undies isn't supposed to be sexy; it's supposed to be embarrassing for him. But I don't even think there's any like lines in the game to infer that. I think it's literally just a reference to something that happened in the comics, which in that case, it has no effect on this. It has no effect on the story in terms of like any voice lines or anything like that. And in fact, it would damage the story more because no one comments on it. Whereas with Stellar Blade, the whole point is Smexy girl doing cool things, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and she just finds out, like, throughout the game, like in Nier and other RPGs, when you do missions, you find certain outfits, and there is contextual reasoning that, hey, I find this outfit nice. I'll put it on. Does that not make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you had stuff like, and that's another thing I don't like is you had people like CBR complaining about stuff like what's the word I'm looking for? They would start thirsting over Hades, and then they would say when their hypocrisy is brought up, oh, but this girl or whatever the fuck is supposed to be, what's the word I'm looking for? What are those? Why ain't the word coming to my head? Like seductive. But here's the thing, that same website was complaining about the Kamen Rider Double anime having a witch that was supposed to be seductive. They just don't like attractive women.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue. And I'm going to be honest, I think Hades, that game looks fucking ugly. I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
It's definitely an acquired art style. I think that some of the designs were downgrades from the first game to me, so that's what I'd probably say about that. But like the other problem too is that like the Hades art style also doesn't even match like how the gods were interpreted in mythology or in like statues we see of them. it's very much like, oh, these are sort of like the traits we know of these gods. Let's just kind of go off the rails and just do what we want to do character designs, which is fine. But then trying to act like the Hades designs are so much better than what Stellar Blade is doing, when if we're talking purely about faithful adaptations, then Hades falls apart completely.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an issue I take with that statement. And again, like I said, this place is going, oh, but there's plot justification. One, as we established, there is plot justification in
Like,
Stellar
one
Blade.
second,
She
let me
just
pull out one character.
like there is plot justification in Stellar Blade, as we established. She just puts on outfits she think is nice. It doesn't need to be deeper than that. It makes sense. And second, again, this same place was complaining at Futo Pi, the Kamen Rider Double anime, for having an attractive, seductive woman.
Mm-hmm.
But that show didn't suit their narrative.
Yeah, like, one sec. I'll share my screen in just a second. Presents. There we go.
Okay, let me add it.
Because like you have Hestia, which is the goddess of like flame and the hearth and stuff, and she looks like this with what's that? It's that one skin condition. It's like vertilago or something.
Yeah.
And this is what Hestia looks like in like art and stuff, and like traditional Greek art. I could understand like giving it some kind of flair and stuff based on this, but looking at Hestia in the game Hades 2, she looks nothing at all like her mythological counterpart. So I would say, if anything, all of the Hades designs are purely worse because they don't even resemble, like, even close to what the characters like the Greek gods look like from descriptions in their stories or statues that we see of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thing I have issue I have with these people with, again, they're what I call pseudo critics. And why do I call them that? A critic's job is to use critical thinking. I don't care if you're working for a quote unquote professional place like IGN. If you suck ass at your job, you're not a critic. You're not critically analyzing the media. You're missing the point and judging things from what your petty little mind can grab upon.
Mm-hmm.
The first instinct, which again, that's literally not critical thinking. Critical thinking is having the first instinct and then delving into it to see if there's more meat to it.
Or just like literally just moving outside of the box of critical analysis that you usually do to like examine the art on its own terms, which is like what a lot of these people usually say. It's like, Shane, look at the art on its terms. Well, let's do that. And then these people never do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I call them pseudo critics, because again, like they're like, oh, like they see Stellar Blade on a surface level. They're like, oh, sexy Korean woman fighting in tights and puts on other sexy outfits in the game. It's like, here's the thing. It does make sense, especially since in the game, like I've seen clips, I've seen reviews, I've seen a fair share of the plot. What Eve is, she's supposed to be a naive girl that doesn't understand a lot of the stuff that's happening. So when she goes on Earth, it makes sense that when she finds clothes that look nice in a battlefield or somewhere, she'd want to put them on.
Mm.
And in terms of stuff like the battle tides, if you're like, oh, nobody's gonna fight like that in real life, okay, let's bitch about Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and almost any other piece of fiction for having tights and non-realistic fighting wear.
What's it called? I'm gonna share screen again. 1 second. Share screen. Yeah, it's not like we have professional fighters who are women wearing essentially a bra top and trunks. It's not like this is what is typically worn for people who do mixed martial arts or combat sports.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you don't want like anything in the way. Okay.
The people are so fucking stupid, bro.
Mm.
But like I said, and then not to mention, they also like games like The Last of Us 2, but again, since the lead character is ugly, the model for Abby is not ugly, by the way. I've
Or the
seen what
fact that, like, in The Last of Us 2, we just have a full gratuitous sex scene, which wasn't censored in any way, and was so bad and people hated it so much it became a meme.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of the things I do love about Asia, is Asia usually doesn't bend the knee to a lot of bullshit. And again, I am not one of those crazy anti-SJWs that just calls woke on every single fucking thing. Like, I have a video criticizing main man Stan's anti-SJW take on Kamen Rider Black Sun, and I have a podcast with you and other people I complain making fun of his response. And also, we have taken jabs at anti-SJWs multiple times, even in this podcast. But the thing is, when it comes to a lot of these people, they don't know how to critically analyze art. And that's something I think that's a painful aspect of media literacy.
But bro,
because,
yeah, I never use the term media literacy because it is such a dead meme and like it means absolutely nothing nowadays.
yeah, but that's because here's the thing. A lot of people that actually participate in media literacy, they don't understand it. A lot of them are just pseudo-political craze. They're just political crazies that look at a piece of art and think of how they could attach it to the politics that they side with or are against, rather than looking at it from the surface and trying to look at what does this actually mean? What is this going for?
Mm-hmm.
Toku Punk Productions said, "This is what Kill la Kill tried to teach us." It is. Someone said, he also said people are saying Black Sun was it was Watchmen 2019 of Kamen Rider. Oh god, those people are fucking stupid. Like that's a thing I really didn't like about that whole discourse is like you had the anti-SJWs that were calling Kamen Rider Black Sun woke, and then you had the SJWs being like, "Oh, it is woke. How about it is woke? Keep on hating, bigot." And it's like, no, it's anti-everything. Like, Shadow Moon is a deranged leftist.
But the other thing, like, is I wonder if there's going to be any kind of paradigm shift that will come sooner or later in regards to all of this, because it's very clear that given everything that's happened over the past couple of years, there's just a general aversion people have to this kind of nonsense, and hopefully the more things keep going, the more like it just sort of oozes its way out of companies like antivirus in a way.
I think this is a step in the right direction because it shows, like, here's the thing, Stellar Blade sold fantastic worldwide. It did. But you know what it managed to do? I heard that free Stellar Blade petition got even more signatures than the game's sales. I heard. I don't know how true that is, but I heard it got even more. So it was telling Sony, and well, not Shift Up, because I don't think Shift Up even wanted to censor it. Like, they were talking about how it was going to be uncensored, and then they released the game, and so I'm pretty sure that was all Sony, given their history. But this tells that Sony was willing to listen. And that's something that I think is going to be ultimately do the right for the future. Maybe we'll also get better localizers in the future for subtitles. Like, we're going to get foreign games completely uncensored now. So maybe with foreign media in general, in terms of translations, we can stop getting other bad localizations because these companies are starting to get word that people just want the art with how it was made to be enjoyed.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, hopefully this does usher in a better dedication towards improving on localizations, because I think that if we do have better localizations, that it just is going to allow for people to have a broader range of experiences because of all the new media that they can consume. But there is like a large problem where it comes to like localizers and them trying to change things in media, which I think is like a big hurdle that needs to be overcome.
It is. Like, at this point, like, many people are upset about the concept of AI subtitles. I don't care. Like, first of all, one, subtitles ain't art. Subtitles exist so you could enjoy the art and how it was made to be enjoyed. Second, I'd take accurate subtitles over a localizer that just adds bullshit that wasn't in the original material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I always remember Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid as like the biggest example I can think of something being changed for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like, I'm fine with remakes of stuff changing things, not if it's obnoxious stuff, but you know what I mean. But a subtitle? No. And dubs, on the other hand, like, I'll be honest, I don't care about dubs. I think they're garbage, but still, if you're gonna dub it, I can see the people who like dubs' frustration for why it's getting, for why it's not being accurate. Though in that case, I just tell you to get good and learn to read.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I don't like dub in general very clearly, mainly because as I always seen it, acting is half of what makes a character good. Actors help add weight and convey more what's going on than the surface of the script. So I think dub in general just kind of isn't viewing the art at its core, since you got new actors in there. But I do think if you're gonna dub something, you should be accurate.
Mm-hmm. I also think, like, generally, I don't mind dubs, and I think that dubs are pretty good about, like, at least engendering people to wanting to check out foreign media. And I think that both dubs and subs have a duty to be as accurate as they can be. And since we have an industry for this kind of stuff, that it does require there to be better standards towards dubs and the like.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not a dub viewer. If I had control, there'd be better localizations on dubs. Now again, subtitles luckily don't have the same issue, but there's still bad localizers that poorly translate subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this could be a good start for future things to come. Like, and I wonder, why did this game in particular face that type of... Oh, wait, because it's a Sony exclusive. Nier, on the other hand, didn't face all of that because Nier is not a Sony exclusive.
Yeah. Like,
So
it's really clear that Sony just does a lot of, like, weird stuff to impose upon its console. Like, even outside of, like, kind of culture war-y stuff, even when Skyrim Special Edition came to the PlayStation, they were really against mods that used external materials and the like, which is why no one talks about mods on the PlayStation. They either talk about them on PC or Xbox, because Microsoft was pretty open about letting mods that use external materials be used on their console.
Yeah, which I think every console should kind of do with their games, because, again, it brings more variety and replay value to what you get. And when you have these companies that, like Capcom, I believe, removed naked mods for the female characters in the games, and it's like, but...
I think that, like, that's like one of those things where it's like... I don't want to blame the people who had those mods on, but, like, if you're doing like a tournament and stuff, you gotta check to make sure you don't got any mods on. Because if you hadn't had mods on in the first place, the issue never would have been raised, and then Capcom wouldn't have had to respond. Because I think that, like, that was literally like the worst optical L that was taken. Because, like, if Capcom didn't do anything, then those people would have just kept digging for something worse, and then Capcom would have had to take action. And I think that, like, overall, it could have been worse. But, like, if for a person who likes those kinds of mods, you are probably single-handedly the reason why Capcom did this, because you literally were not smart enough to check to make sure you didn't have mods on.
You mean that? Are you talking about that situation where the person had the new Chun-Li mod on for Street Fighter 6 by accident?
Yeah, for a tournament. Like, I'm
Base
sorry.
Mod,
like I'm not that much of a gooner where I'm gonna do that for a mod. But, like, if you are going to go in and do that, then, like, at least be smart about your gooning.
I agree
Don't
with
be
that.
like an idiot.
I agree with that. It is funny. But point is, when it came to those mods, like, I will say this. When people are saying stuff like, oh, this doesn't make sense in the narrative, to be fair, those mods, those nude mods, don't make sense in the narrative. But if you're downloading But if you're downloading a nude mod, on the other hand, it's like it's not really supposed to. Like you're just wanting to play the game while getting eye candy. It's not the core game.
Yeah.
So it's hard to criticize those mods.
But I'm not gonna criticize. I'm like when it comes to mods, it's not something that's gonna affect me. Do what you want, but like if you're gonna do what you want and you already know that people are gonna give you a side eye about it, at least be smart about it. Don't be like an idiot.
Exactly. Like if you want to goon whale while playing Resident Evil, like or Street Fighter, keep that shit off during your tournaments. Like if your tournament, here's the thing, I have anxiety, so if I'm doing a tournament, I'm gonna be extra fucking thorough with when I'm setting shit up, because I'm gonna be like, oh god, I better not show off the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe it just helps because my mind is kind of spurgish, and I always have to double check things due to my mental health.
He's saying he's a retard.
Oh, fuck off. But now I'm not gonna
There's your
act like...
feelings. You know it to be true.
Now, no lie, Chun-Li mods and Ada Wong mods are pretty nice to look at. Not gonna lie.
And the other thing too is that like a lot of people who like raised hell about the Chun-Li mod, if you checked like their likes and stuff on Twitter, they were like liking a bunch of like the Leon mods that were the same thing just for Leon, and it's like, really?
It's a double standard. It's like
it's pure hypocrisy.
It's basically if, like, let's say you catch your dad sucking cock and he's being like, son, you better not come home with a man. It's like, bruh, you're literally gay.
Joe, are you talking about like a family experience that you remember? Is this like some kind of repressed memory?
Oh, fuck off.
Do we need an intervention?
But the point is, saying that is the equivalent to saying, I don't like gay people while having a dick in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I hate hypocrisy. I just want people to be consistent. And that's why I hate the culture war. The right, the left, SJWs, anti-SJWs, they're stupid. They lack critical thinking. That's why everyone is an extremist to them. That's why I've had people tell me on, like, I was in, like, I'm friends with you, so it's a good guy and all, but I commented on my friend Sosa Podent's review of Prey, saying I liked the movie, and then the person was saying since I was a centrist, apolitical overall, I was gonna get drafted by the left, and it's like, go eat a dick, you fucking moron. I'm just an intelligent person that uses critical thinking. I'm not getting drafted by anybody because I'm not a sheep, unlike you. And same goes for these goes for the SJWs.
Well, what's it called, Joey? None of them are really using Asian women to market themselves, so that's why you're not going to get drafted.
That would be the only way I'd get drafted, because
so it's not a matter of you not being a sheep. It's a matter of you just being a sheep for the right type of grass.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing I hate, and that's why I get so annoyed when it comes to political takes, because a lot of it, like, I'm very passionate about media. As you know, I like a lot of geeky stuff. That's why I have this channel. That's why I have this podcast. And I feel like culture war people are trying to ruin that. They are the problem with art, and it's both sides. That's what it is. Tokapunk said Sosa seems like a cool guy, but his vids and takes are he's a cool guy. I like having him on the podcast and stuff. But I don't always agree with his takes, to say the least. But hey, I can be friends with people. I'm friends with people both on the right and the left. Even some crazy right wingers and some crazy left wingers.
But and I guess like the one thing that makes me wonder is that now that Sony's got two major kind of controversies, the Stellar Blade stuff and then the stuff with Helldivers, if this is going to affect sort of stuff going on with their console and their exclusives in the future, because everyone's sort of kind of just not cared anymore about the Sony exclusives because most of them are now walking simulators, and all the good stuff is available across platforms. So here's the thing. Yeah, like
you know why Sony these days is located in America?
Shoot.
It's because in Japan, they like the PlayStation still sells fairly well in Japan, but it doesn't sell as nearly as well as it used to. And you want to know why that is? A lot of this shit they pull.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Yeah, it does sort of feel like they've strapped themselves to a sinking ship in a way.
Yeah, they did. And the West, like, I don't think the PS5 sold as well. Like, it's a great selling console. Don't get me wrong. Around the pandemic, it was hard to get one because it was selling well. But
I mean, I got one, so I
yeah,
know for a fact that's a selling console.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's not selling as well as a lot of the older Sony consoles, like the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, or anything like that. I don't even think it's. I don't even know if it's sold as well as the PS4. I think the reason why it's sold out constantly was mainly because of the pandemic.
Yeah, but I think like also all the consoles aren't selling as well.
The Switch sold great. The Switch, I believe, is the number one selling thing. It outsold the Wii, and the Wii sold amazing.
Yeah, if that's the case, but then also the Switch is sort of filling another kind of niche that the Xbox and the PlayStation just can't. So that's fair. Like that's to be expected.
Yeah. But I think a lot of that also could come back to that a lot of people these days are also resorting to PC gaming, since PC, like the Xbox and the Sony ponies, don't want to acknowledge this, but every single this already happened to Xbox. Every single Xbox game is on PC, and PlayStation right now it takes a bit for them to hit PC. But these days, every single new Sony game will eventually hit PC. Mark my words, because that's been happening to all of them. People said it would happen to Ghost of Tsushima. It did. People said it would happen to Stellar Blade. I believe it's been confirmed it's coming to PC and more.
Yeah.
But that's because the PC has become very powerful. PC has become very diverse, and
like PCs are just kind of like where a lot of like really big genres came from, so it makes sense that people would just transfer over to the PC anyway. Like even though there's going to be a bigger price tag that comes along with it, sort of honestly save up, and then you can do a lot more with a PC.
Yeah, exactly. The only I'm a console gamer mainly because one, it's cheaper than building a big PC, and I'm not the most financially successful person on this planet. And two, I like the simplicity. Three, physical copies. Like, power of a game, horsepower is fucking great. But you know what's even more satisfying to me? Getting a video game off my shelf, popping in that disc, and playing it at a decent enough frame rate.
Oh yeah, so that's literally why I still have all my older consoles, is just for that exact reason.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, horsepower is nice, but it's like a quote from Stan Lee out there. Stan Lee said, "Comic books are like boobs. It's nice to look at on a screen, but I'd rather be holding one in my hand."
Did he actually say that though?
I believe he did.
I've heard people say that before, and I'm like, did he though? Because I'm like, I did not hear an Excelsior at the end of that, so that's why I'm doubting it.
I'll have to look it up. I can see Stan saying it.
Excelsior. He just jumps into a giant mound.
Stan was the man, though.
You know, he what's it called? He cosplayed as Revolver Ocelot. I think either the time, like right after Metal Gear Solid came out, or after Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. It was so cool when he did that.
Well, that's because Stan Lee was a cool guy. Like when you look in, when the comic books of Godzilla were being written, when he went to theaters to watch some films like Godzilla vs. Megalon, from what I heard, he yelled, "Go get him, Godzilla!" It's like, oh
yeah, I remember that was from like, I think it was like Paper Fins video. Yeah,
and it's like, oh man, and you can definitely tell he had an appreciation for art, because when he looked at stuff like the Japanese Spider-Man,
don't you mean dun, 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 Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, yeah. He was impressed by a lot of the stuff they pulled off, because as he said, a lot of the stuff that show took for modern day Hollywood CGI to accomplish. Back then, you just had stunts and stuff like ropes. That show is probably special effects in a technical standpoint the most impressive thing from Marvel I've seen. It's not my favorite. My favorite is the Raimi Spider-Man films. And I think in a story perspective and all of that, those films are also the best. But in terms of being special effects, stunts, and impressive all around in that regard, I think Spider-Man did it the most impressive and
Not
the
to
best
mention,
in
you
that
can't go anywhere else for Spider-Man content and have him be the emissary of hell.
Yeah, exactly. Toku Punk said Stan was with Ishinomori. Yeah, he was. Both of them were great. He also said Stan didn't like being with topless women. I mean, he was a married man. His wife probably would have fucking killed him.
Stanley apparently didn't like being in Deadpool. Interesting.
Huh. Well,
I also don't
Stan,
like Deadpool as a character, so that's fair.
Deadpool's awesome.
I liked him better when he was actually closer to being a Deathstroke ripoff than what he's become.
I understand that.
Because I think, like, overall, Deadpool's just been flanderized to a point where it's like, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, do we have anything more to add about Stellar Blade or PlayStation censorship and stuff? This...
Not much more I can think of, no.
Okay, so we basically covered all the bases.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a W. Again, it wasn't crazy censorship, and I do agree that some people were overreacting by going that, oh, I'm not gonna buy this now, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, censorship is censorship, and I'm glad it was lifted. Plus, we get to look more at a scanned Shin Jae-un ass. So that's nice. That
Be
is
gone.
nice.
Go to horny jail. Cretin.
Yeah. But yeah, so all that's nice. I still want to buy Stellar Blade, especially since from how it looks and even how it's been described, it's basically considered Nier meets Dark Souls, which is like, that's a fantastic combination. So that's something I really want to get my hands on. And overall, it just looks very interesting to me. I heard some criticisms on the voice acting and story, but here's the thing. All of it revolves around a dub. And that's when I could say, get good and learn to read.
Get good, casual.
Because I'm gonna be playing that game in Korean, how it was meant to be played. Call me a subs purist. I technically am, because I straight up unironically said in my dub video, subs are the only way to experience something in its pure form, and I will die on that hill. But yeah. And I end up buying it at some point. Didn't buy it yet, but that's because, well, like I said, I'm a broke bitch. But once the price drops, I will pick it up, and it will be physical. But that said, you have anything to say, Zim?
Nope. I pretty much got all I needs to say.
But this was a nice little discussion. It was basically a short Galactic Nerd Outpost episode, being like literally just a little bit over an hour. But I enjoyed it. I want to do more of these content. I'm gonna be uploading doing more articles for Sakura Central soon. And don't worry, the Son of Kong review will be out before King Kong. Because the reason that took so long is because one, my original plan, I wanted to get every creator I had in every video. It's when I asked Zio Agito about that concept, he told me that sounded haphazardous or something. He was right, because it didn't work out.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like dealing with so many people's schedules. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, and he was right, especially since he's a businessman and he kind of figured how that would work. And then I learned about, and then Zim advised me to make it where one creator per video. Like, that's not to say I won't collab with them again. Like, Zim is joining me for Godzilla Raids again soon. But basically, the featured creators don't have to be in every video, only in what they're able to join. And I was relying on having other people. I was looking for someone who wasn't Zim to join me for King Kong for a while, since his next appearance was going to be very soon, but I couldn't find it, so I just asked Zim, hey, you want to talk about King Kong with me? He did. I'm proud with how it turned out. But there will be more soon. Gonna have a Son of Kong video, a review of Gogeta out soon, And I also am working on a review for Nier Automata, amongst other things. I want to hammer in the fact that my channel isn't just a kaiju or tokusatsu channel. It's a nerd-centric channel.
Because he's a
So-
gooner, guys.
and expect more gaming content. But that said, this is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.